right, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month, even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending, zero tears. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
Courage. I learned it from my adoptive mom. Hold my hand.
You hold my hand.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care at adoptuskids.org. You can't imagine the reward. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Welcome to True Crime Garage. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Nick, and with me as always, he spent the afternoon cooking up rhymes. Here is the captain.
It's good to be seen and good to see you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for telling a friend.
This week we are featuring Munsterfest by the crafty but not normal folks at 3 Floyds. Munsterfest is an Oktorberfest Marzen, a festive beer brewed with the finest German barley, Bavarian noble hops, and traditional lager yeast. Munsterfest is available in August and September. ABV 6.2%, garage grade 4 3/4 bottle caps out of 5. And let's give some thanks and praise to our good garage friends. First up, a cheers to Sarah in Pincher Creek, Alberta, Canada. And last but certainly not least, we have a cheers to Julie in San Marcos, Texas. Everyone we just mentioned went to truecrimegarage.com, helped us fill up the old garage fridge for this week's shows, and for that, we thank you.
Yeah, BWRUN Beer Run. Hey, are you following us on Patreon? It's free. There's a pay tier. Yeah, you get off the record with the pay tier, but if not, it's free. Check us out on Patreon or any social media at True Crime Garage. And Colonel, that's enough of the business.
All right, everybody gather around, grab a chair, grab a beer. Let's talk some true crime. This week's true story has just about every aspect of a true crime tale all bundled together. Disappearances turned to missing persons cases. Missing persons turned to murder cases, turned to cold cases and serial predators. Missing people, bodies on the side of rural roads, and burned up bones found on a farm all make up the framework for the story of one man, Herbert Baumeister. Murders can be studied through evidence, reports, timelines, and investigative procedures. During the 1970s and 1980s, public attention increasingly turned toward serial killers. Investigators, criminologists, psychologists, and researchers studied them in an effort to understand how such offenders think, how they choose victims, and how future murders might be prevented. Yet failed investigations, prejudice, missed warnings, and fragmented evidence allowed Herbert Baumeister to hunt and dump, and later he would graduate to luring his chosen prey to his most favorite of killing grounds, his home. Herbert Baumeister is the central figure in one of Indiana's most disturbing criminal mysteries, the Fox Hollow Farm murders. This is True Crime Garage. Herbert Richard Baumeister was born on April 7, 1947 in Indianapolis, Indiana. He was the oldest of 4 children born to Dr. Herbert Eugene Baumeister, who was an accomplished anesthesiologist, and his wife, Elizabeth Baumeister. The family began in the Butler-Tarkington neighborhood of Indianapolis. Herb was the first child in what appeared to be a stable, prosperous, respectable household. His father's medical career flourished, and in time, Herb was joined by his sister Barbara, his brother Brad, and later another brother. This is Richard, who was born 9 years after Herb. As the family grew, they moved to affluent Washington Township. This is just north of Indianapolis. For young Herb, the big giant home was a delight. He enjoyed playing with his younger siblings, but the eldest child, he alone seemed to remember the family's earlier, less luxurious living circumstances. His younger siblings grew up with a better level of quality of life, with better level of comfort and wealth. So to the 3 Baumeister children, that sort of high-class living probably felt ordinary. But to Herb, he understood that status came out of ambition and hard work and achievement that comes out of that ambition and hard work. So he does well in school. He had friends. He was funny. He was known as a practical joker. His mother adored him. And though his father was often absent because he worked all the time, Herb was treated fairly and had a good upbringing as far as all the reports go. Then came puberty, disturbing behaviors. Let's face it, some warning signs. The change in Herb was not sudden. He still joked a lot. He still was seeking attention. But the things that fascinated him became darker, and the practical jokes that he liked to play that once seemed harmless started becoming grotesque. So Herb's little practical jokes, he was known for this at school and in the neighborhood. These practical jokes started to involve things like urine, small dead animals, and dead birds.
Yeah, I believe one of his childhood friends talks about how Herbert was fascinated with how urine would taste.
Yeah,
that's not the answer I was looking for.
To state the obvious here, he started becoming very socially awkward. And what's interesting here about this, Captain, to me is it's not socially awkward in the sense that he is like recoiling from social activity, that he's shying away from groups and not talking to people. It's more of he's very outgoing, and the social networks and communities are like, this dude is weird. And so at some point, he's not dumb. At some point, he realized that he was not going to blend in easily into, this normal school. This is Midwest back in the day. He doesn't blend in, so he tried the opposite. He tried to stand out, or at least it appeared that way to others. Now, he never dated during his school years, and he never showed any interest in girls. But instead, classmates remembered him for morbid behavior and a fascination with death and decay. And again, that comes with him playing with these small dead animals and dead birds, and also involving them in his practical jokes that he would pull on people.
Yeah, could you imagine going, hey, did you see Stacy? She looked pretty good in that dress today. And your buddy Herbert's like, didn't notice her. Hey, I wonder what urine tastes like.
Yeah. And by the way, let me throw a dead crow at you.
Oh, yeah. I love the crow story.
So he regularly would blurt out disturbing comments. And like you said, one of them where he's playing with a group of boys and he's telling them that he wonders what urine might taste like. This led to him chasing them around, and he's jokingly, or at least they thought, their recollection was he was jokingly pretending to beg for a drink. It was said that they just sort of dismissed this as another one of his weird, sick jokes. I think part of this that plays into this, right? He's a boy from a wealthy family.
Yeah.
And I think much of his actions that were extremely weird on the surface. I think a lot of people just thought like these are pranks. He's immature. This might even be eccentric behavior.
Well, the
he's
critics
exhibiting.
would say that he had an odd sense of humor.
Right. Yes. A bit of a Borat, if you will.
Yeah. He wanted to feel funny, so he put baloney in his shoes so he'd feel funny.
And where one might think that Herb would have been picked on growing up, it actually seems the opposite was taking place. Seemingly, Herb used his little pranks to pick on the other children.
Yeah.
He wasn't considered a bully. He was considered a clown whose jokes were humiliating, gross, and unsettling. So he had control and power over the other kids because the other kids were afraid that they would be the butt of one of his jokes. At some point, it's said that dead crows appeared on teachers' desk. Sounds like Herb was the prime suspect. Eventually, adults could no longer ignore this type of behavior. His morbid interest crept into his schoolwork. He was intelligent but disruptive. One morning, a teacher arrived to find someone had urinated on her desk. Again, Herb was the prime suspect. So the school officials contacted Herb's parents. They told them about their suspicions. Look, they had no proof that their son was doing these things, but you know how this works. Usually you talk to the kids, and while you have no proof, the other kids are like, yeah, this is the guy that's doing this. And you hear it from more than one kid.
Yeah, when I was in 7th grade, somebody took a shit in the bathroom sink, and I just so happened to need the restroom pass that period. So they were calling everybody down to the office that used the restroom during that period. And I remember being appalled that they even thought it was possible that I'd be interested in taking a shit in the bathroom sink.
With this strange and bizarre behavior, which is becoming more and more a part of his childhood and his actions and the way he's behaving at school, his friends from the neighborhood and from school, they started to pull away. Teachers were avoiding contact with him. His father became more distant, and it sounds like his mother, like the two of them were very close. So she remained emotionally invested in her son, but Herb's behavior started to frighten and repulse her.
Yeah, I think the other issue too is, especially with young boys, if you excel at sports, then it becomes okay. And it seems like maybe his other siblings were excelling in areas he wasn't. So maybe that's why his mother continued to pay attention to him. But it's also the child that made her initially a mother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think once dad became successful enough, she became a stay-at-home mom and took on that role. So she was much more involved with the children, which allowed her husband to work all these hours. He was very dedicated to his career and his craft. Now, I don't have a time frame on this, and I promise we'll circle back to it. But it's reported that at some point, Herbert Baumeister was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and antisocial personality disorder, but he did not receive any type of long-term treatment for these diagnoses. So again, I don't have an exact time frame on this.
I think this happened after they're finding crows on the desk and he's peeing on things. I think that's when he gets diagnosed.
Yeah, and I say that it could have been at this time period. We know that this was already starting to become a concern, his behavior, but I do know that he was actually sent away later in life for diagnosis, evaluation, and treatment. So I don't know if it came at that point. Now, what we do know is that Herb was smart enough to recognize that he was different, that his actions were working against him. So he learned to hide parts of him from the world. He learned to compartmentalize. Herb wanted popularity, respect, and admiration. Instead, he became lonely and frustrated. After high school, Herb enrolled in Indiana University. This was in 1965. So now he's away from the protection of his family's reputation and their status. And there he struggled immediately. His strange humor alienated him from classmates. He felt ignored. He felt inferior. He dropped out before completing his first semester. His father was disappointed. His father was furious. And so his dad did what I think a lot of dads would do. Hey, you're not going to go to school. You need to get a job. So Dr. Baumeister used his connections to find a job for his son. Herb became a copy boy at the Indianapolis Star, a newspaper that we've referenced on this little garage show many, many times. Now, he's like the dream employee in the beginning. He arrives early each morning. He's overdressed. He shows up in a suit. Again, this is that part of Herb that craved success, craved status and approval. And he tried to network with the bosses, with the brass, but his dark sense of humor and odd remarks were both off-putting and irritating. His coworkers regularly complained to the higher-ups about Herb's disturbing comments, uncomfortable jokes, and unsettling stares. And this is the cherry on the top. Man, Herb started driving a hearse. Right? He's not like driving a hearse for work, not as part of a new job that he took on. No, he purchased a hearse and was driving it as his everyday vehicle.
He even dressed up.
Yeah, there's one story about him dressing up in like a chauffeur or something when he went to pick up some friends in the hearse.
Hey, but if he was in a band called White Zombie, it'd be cool. But he's just Lonely Herb. I think the other weird thing about him is, yeah, we have reports of people saying, well, he's being odd in these odd stares, but he seems to be a pretty smiley guy.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to his joking and clown-ish behavior, right? He's not the weird, quiet kid. He's the sort of loud, outgoing weird kid.
Yeah.
So his father recommends that he should go back to school. Herb agrees. He goes back to Indiana University. This time he signs up for a single class. It's human anatomy. And so his dad, right? Like maybe this is him trying to play toward his dad or win dad's approval. You know, dad's a doctor. And I'm sure dad was happy and proud about this selection. But what we would later learn about Herb, I think this is more of a sign. There are, dad might have thought he was taking an interest in medicine, but there are people that say that no, Herb openly discussed wanting to conduct an autopsy and was hoping to have some form of direct contact with a corpse or with corpses.
Not good.
Well, that class never involved any of what he talked about wanting to experience. This is mostly textbook stuff, chalkboard stuff. And so I guess he was disappointed. This is about the time when Herb started traveling into Indianapolis in the evenings to visit the gay bars. There, Herb found a world of men searching for belonging because, keep in mind the time period, society was denying these individuals a place in society.
Yeah.
And he liked it, so he began to visit more often. We see this with a lot of these case studies, right? Here and at an early age, we see this. And we see it at an early age with Herb. He's creating these alternate lives, these alter egos. He starts to develop these different sides to himself that he can chamber away.
Cubism.
You, because of who you are and because of who you are to me and what social circle and part of my lifestyle that you are to me, well, then you get to see this side of me and only this side of me. And that side of me, when it is not natural to me, it's in part somewhat of a reflection of you, right? When I need to fit in and pretend to be normal or even maybe a good person, the side of me that you will see will most likely be learned behaviors. Because on the inside, what I truly am, society would not welcome. In fact, they will try to lock me up and keep me hidden away like some monster that's been banished from society and forced to live in the caves far outside of the castle walls.
Yeah.
And you're right. It was BTK that referred to it as cubism. And think about a cube. I think that Dennis Rader thinks that he's a lot more intelligent than he really is. And I think he gets off on part of that. And I think that he got off on thinking he was smarter than police. And I think he looks down on a lot of us. Meanwhile, he's the one that's locked up for despicable, horrible crimes, some of them against children. But I'll give some credit where credit is due. When you think about a cube, I think that's the best way that it's ever been explained. There's all these different sides of the cube, and you can pick it up and set it down on the table, and you can, from some angles, only see one side of that cube.
And many serial killers have tried to explain this, and he probably did it the best.
Yeah, I think because it adds different layers and dimensions to it, where you have some will say the dark passenger, or even Raider said Factor X.
Right.
And we're going to see this with Herb as well.
But I also think some of these individuals are, because it's all they know. All they know is their thoughts, right? So I think some of them are viewing society as, you guys are all just like me, but you're just controlling it. And some of them know that they're different and that they're having unnatural thoughts.
Yes, and here's the thing. The ones that I find to be the most dangerous, and what I mean by that is typically they'll have higher
kill rates
and victim counts, are the ones that recognize that they're different and can become a bit of a chameleon and figure out how to fit in and how to hide it and to go undetected for much longer periods of times. Then there are others that recognize that they are different, but do not understand why they are different, and they desire to figure that out. They need to learn. Those types often spiral out of control much faster and go into a much more frenzied state, and they're often caught or killed before their victim count rises to these levels.
It's probably why we see substance abuse problems in these individuals as well.
Well, unfortunately for us community types, Herb is not dumb. In fact, I find him to be rather smart. He starts to learn that there is a game here for him, and he's going to learn how to play it. He is going to learn to pretend so he can fit in, and not only fit in, he'll learn to thrive. He'll create a persona. He'll become an important, successful person who is both powerful and respected during the daytime. So at night, Herb can be whoever and whatever he wants to be. And what he truly is someone very sick and depraved. He is extremely perverted. And to achieve his true satisfaction, it's going to bring along with it a lot of death. Summer always seems to sneak up on us, but Groons is the one wellness habit that actually keeps up with your schedule. Groons are a convenient, comprehensive formula in one delicious daily pack of gummy bears. This isn't a multivitamin, a greens gummy, or a prebiotic. It's all of those things and then some at a fraction of the price. And bonus, they taste great. They come in a daily pack of gummies because you can't fit the amount of nutrients Groons does into just one gummy. With more than 20 vitamins and minerals, including 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, Groons ingredients are backed by over 35,000 research publications. I've been taking Groons now, consuming these little gummy bears for about a month, and I am enjoying this because I have more energy and I feel healthier. And it's got to be from the Groons, baby. And it's not heavy lifting. This is easy, convenient. There's a handful of delicious gummy bears in each little packet. I usually take mine, eat them in the afternoon as a little snack, take them on the go, or consume those little gummy bears right before hitting the gym for a little added extra boost of energy. Save up to 52% off with code GARAGE at Groons.co. That's code GARAGE at GRUNS.co.
New teachers, new schedules, new expectations. Back to school is a lot. IXL makes it easy to spot and close learning gaps in just a few minutes a day. IXL is an award-winning online learning platform that helps kids truly understand what they're learning, whether they're building math confidence, strengthening reading and writing skills, or reviewing science concepts. IXL is used in 96 of the top 100 school districts in the U.S., and studies show kids who use IXL score higher on tests, proven in all 50 states. I come from a family of teachers, and they're having their kids use IXL. I'm seeing my nieces and nephews, if they had gaps from last year, they're closing those. And they're continuing their learning routine, which is helping them build confidence in challenging subjects. And I know my nieces and nephews are going to start the school year off strong. Make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now. And True Crime Garage listeners can get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at IXL.com/garage. That's IXL.com/garage.
Most of us picked a bank at 16 and never looked back. Sound familiar? That's where Chime comes in. They're not like traditional old banks who charge fees and gatekeep perks and rewards. Chime offers the most rewarding, fee-free banking, all with no overdraft fees, no monthly fees, no minimum balance fees. You get 5% cash back on Chime Card in a category of your choice, like gas or groceries, all while building credit through regular, everyday spending with no credit check. And you can also grow your money faster with a savings rate that's 9 times the national average. Join the millions who are already banking fee-free with America's #1 choice for banking. Head to chime.com/garage. That is chime.com/garage. Sign up now. It only takes a few minutes. Chime is a fintech, not a bank. Banking services and Chime Card provided by Chime's bank partners. Qualifying direct deposits required. Terms and limits apply. Go to chime.com/disclosures for details. August is the perfect time to hit reset before the autumn rush begins, and your closet is a great place to start. Quince is the perfect place to refresh a wardrobe with timeless, high-quality essentials, like their ultra-soft organic cotton tees and premium Mongolian cashmere sweaters. They're versatile, timeless, and transition seamlessly from a casual workday to dinner out. Everything at Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They work directly with ethical factories and cut out the middlemen, so you're paying for high quality, not brand markup. I love Quince.com, and in fact, I will be shopping Quince.com later today like I have done a dozen times before. Why? Because I love their gear, I love the style, I love the value, and the orders and shipping are hassle-free. Right now, I am wearing an ultra-soft organic cotton tee from Quince and Quince socks. I have dozens of them. My closet is full of gear from Quince. Upgrade your everyday. Go to quince.com/garage for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada and the UK too. That's QUINCE.com/garage for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/garage.
All right, we are back. Tall cans in the air. Tall cans of beer, Colonel, not urine.
Oh.
Just in case you're wondering. But back to Herbert the pervert.
Well, to satisfy his father and to protect his secret life, Herb joined the university's Young Republicans Club. Now, I got to be clear here. We're speculating on a lot of why he did certain things.
Well, you are speculating.
Thank you. But I'm taking into account what we've learned about similar individuals and ones that we've been able to study at a greater degree than Herb Baumeister. But look, he's obviously experiencing these things at a very, well, not at a very young age, at probably a similar age to most, which is younger than what most people would expect. These are often fantasies that these types will start to harbor even in their teenage years. So this Young Republicans Club that he joins at the university, here, his family name matters. It carries some weight. So it gives him a little, what do they say, gravitas when he joins this group. So he's not simply just this odd young man. He was a Baumeister. There he met Juliana Sater. She goes by Julie. So Julie is a high school English teacher taking classes at the university part-time. She noticed Herb. They shared political views and interest in cars. The two of them hit it off almost immediately, or seemingly did. He started dating Julie. At the same time, it's reported that he cut off ties to what was back then a very hidden gay scene. The Baumeisters, his parents, met Julie early on in their courtship. Herb seemed eager to show her off. His parents were proud and pleased. He's growing. He's moving on with his life, but he's still struggling through job interviews. On paper, this guy seems promising, and he's well-dressed. He's from a good family. He's ambitious, but the interaction part of the interview is what seems wrong. He's got this noticeably unsettling personality that he can't seem to even hide in job interviews. But Julie becomes sort of this stable point for him. And eventually Herb will ask her to marry him. So they get married in November of 1971 at the local United Methodist Church in Indianapolis. Their young Republican friends are in attendance, along with extended family and influential and wealthy friends of Herb's parents. Herb appeared calm, collected, and charming at the ceremony. People who remembered him as bizarre saw him now as improved. After the wedding, job offers seem to come more regularly. This may be from his father's influence.
We all do stupid stuff as kids. So then you go, okay, he's growing out of this. It was just a phase. He's now getting married. He's going to be stable. Let's see what this young guy does with his life. Again, I think you can see so many pictures of this guy where he is smiley. I'm not a big fan of smiley, but I think you can get away with a lot. And that might be, like you said, adopting some learned behavior. Okay, well, I do some weird stuff. I'm a little bit of a oddball to people, but if I smile, it can go a long way. And he might also see the benefits of having a wife to help him navigate this game in society.
He reminds, when you see a politician on TV, and I'm not saying this about all of them, but when you see a politician that you get that feeling just immediately where you're like, this guy's somebody different when nobody's around, when the cameras aren't on and when there's not a big group of people, this guy's different than how he's right now. Yeah. That's like, without knowing anything about Herbert Baumeister, I get that feeling from him seeing any image of him at all. Like that's just the gut feeling I get about this dude.
Yeah, but I will push back. Initially, the what I feel is more there's an oddness to him. It doesn't feel violent. I don't think he's somebody that looks violent.
No, not at all. I'm saying, he looks harmless. I'm saying he doesn't appear to me or move like somebody who is authentic.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Because thinking of like Dahmer and BTK and others, there's to me, when I see images of them, there's a sense of anger and a sense of violence. It feels darker, but that's just visually.
So with a gift from his parents, remember they're well-to-do, and Julie is teaching, she's working at the time. The newlyweds, they get a mortgage on a small suburban house. Life is moving along as it should, the regular pace. Now, before marriage, however, you have this Christian restraint that you can blame on certain things, right? Right? Christian ideals shielded her from Julie's sexual expectations. But after marriage, I
want you to try it before you buy it.
After marriage, he had no acceptable reason to avoid intimacy with his now wife. Folks said outside of the bedroom, they looked like a perfect couple. They spent time together. They spent a lot of time gardening, is what I learned.
Well, they had plenty of time.
They needed to fill the void somehow. And they really kind of put off this old school image of that 1950s, 60s atomic family sort of vibe. And people did say Herb paid a lot of attention to his wife, that it wasn't like he was denying her time or attention. But what we do know is in the bedroom, he was withdrawn. He was distant. Things weren't working in the bedroom for these two. And it was later reported that he would even change his clothes in the bathroom behind a closed door so that his wife would never see him naked.
Yeah, he said it was because he was skinny and scrawny and felt a little
shy.
Embarrassed.
Yeah, I'm just shy.
Dude, you're married now. You might have to pull out that ding-a-ling.
Later, Julie will say that when she tried to get a little more aggressive with some of the behavior, he just got more withdrawn.
Red flag.
And she thinks that this was causing him some internal problems. Okay, so think about this. He's under constant observation now, living with a woman and under observation from his wife. She's pressuring him to perform sexually. He seems to have no interest or no attraction. He starts to crack. So Herb was getting weird again, visibly weird to everyone. And Dr. Baumeister, along with Julie's blessing, had Herb voluntarily committed to a mental institution for depression. He remained there. He stayed there for about 2 months. Now, the doctors at that time suspected something beyond depression because of his I can never say this word because it's about 1,000 letters long. Compartmentalization and refusal to discuss his impulses. They started to suspect schizophrenia. Now, at the time, of course, schizophrenia was it's kind of like a catch-all diagnosis. So he's diagnosed as a schizophrenic with antisocial disorder. By the way, antisocial disorder being one of the number one diagnoses with these serial killer types. Now, it was not a diagnosis at the time, but this time period, there was a lot of fascination with multiple personality disorder. So This was discussed with him, and it was thought that maybe that this possibility of him having multiple personalities was like helpful and even freeing to Herb. Like maybe if he did have multiple personalities, maybe it was another personality that wanted so desperately to carry out his forbidden desires.
Yeah, these pervertic and morbid fantasies.
Yeah, I had somebody told me the other day, they said, I brought up Herb Baumeister, so we were going to be talking about him in the garage soon. And they said, well, he was for his entire life, he was a closeted gay man. I'm like, he wasn't a closeted gay man. He was a closeted sexual sadist with all kinds of morbid fascinations and death and corpses and necrophilia. He happened to be gay.
Yeah. And I remember this is years and years ago now, but I remember when we're looking into Jeffrey Dahmer and thinking, is there part of the equation, this hiding of him being a gay man? Until you start learning that his young fantasies they weren't gay fantasies. They were gay, morbid, violent fantasies.
Involving a corpse or a dead person and or someone that he could control. And he tried to turn some of them into zombies where they were like half dead, half alive.
Yeah. So whether you're homosexual or heterosexual, if you're having these violent, morbid fantasies, especially at a young age, that's a sign for disaster.
Right. And when your when your murder and your murderous fantasies involve sex, which many of them do, your victim naturally is going to be a desired victim, which would also be a desired sexual partner or unwilling partner with most of these guys. And so in this situation, think about this. Herb goes, look, I got maybe I got multiple personalities. If I have multiple personalities, then it's not me, the innocent guy, the nice guy who has all these forbidden desires and these very strange fantasies.
Right.
It's not me who wants men. It's not me who wants corpses. It's someone else. So this will free him. If he felt this, if he recognized this will free him from the guilt. And maybe it was the guilt that was crushing him to the point of where it became obvious to everyone else, and he has to be sent away periodically for this. Or I'm sorry, he has to send temporarily for this. Eventually, under this treatment and at this institution, he's going to show improvement. And so his father and Julie recommend that he be discharged. And so Herb returned home. And look, at first, it may have worked, or at least I think people think that it did. And Julie's relieved. Herb's back to normal. And with whatever took place there, whatever he learned, however they treated him, Herb was able to perform sexually with Julie for the first time. Yay, sex.
Yes.
But we would learn that
ding-dong.
Herb would have rules. It had to be done in total darkness and no nudity, like a severely handicapped game of hide the sausage. So years later, this is terrible. Years later, Julie would say that during more than 25 years of marriage, she and Herb had sex only 6 times, and she never saw him nude. Which to me, I say, good for you, Julie. Because I would not want to have sex with Herb or see him nude.
Well, it depends on what I'm drinking.
So we get to this point here where Herb's father arranged for a job for him at the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. And again, it's the same story that we heard before back from his newspaper days. He arrives early to work. He's ambitious. He's polished. He's controlled.
For the most part.
Yeah, he really took to this job, but like after he settles in, you start to see the same old Herb. Like this dude at work is known to be an angry guy, and he's known for berating coworkers for very simple mistakes. His anger there shocks them, but this behavior sort of overlooked because his work is meticulous and he gets the job done. So the bosses like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the supervisors took his harshness for leadership. They mistook it for leadership. And he was quietly placed on a path toward promotion. His private life, however, is growing more complicated. He, at some point, had secretly returned to the gay bars.
Can you imagine, though, years later, your husband worked with Herbert the pervert. Herbert gets a promotion above your normal husband, and then you find out all the stuff that Herbert did, and you just kind of think to yourself, you couldn't do better than Herbert to get the promotion.
His work was meticulous, Captain.
To me, that sounds, and again, some of this is Hollywood dramatization, but like when you see the scenes of BTK and Mindhunter, it reminds me of that. A stickler for the rules. Oh, you want another roll of tape? Well, you have to return the empty cartridge before I can give you a roll of tape.
The other thing, though, too, think about this. The people that are running this outfit where he's working and excelling, it sounds like this job was arranged by his father,
right?
Not earned, arranged. And so I think that you kind of look at this through, or they were looking at this through a kaleidoscope almost of, well, he comes from this very successful family, and this might just be a part of the bad portion of this that comes along with all the greatness that's going to be there. And so, yes, you're right. Eventually he was in fact promoted. This works well briefly, but it's stated that he started clashing with his boss. His work remained excellent, but his behavior became intolerable. And so now he's not just arguing and getting angry with his coworkers and then his subordinates. He's now getting angry with the boss. During this time, Julie will quit her job. She's going to take on that stay-at-home mother role, much like Herb's mother did. The couple moved into a larger house, big enough for a small family. Their first child was born in 1979. They had a son that was born in 81, and their youngest child followed in 1984. And all the reports here, Captain, are he was a doting father. So the affection he withheld from his wife poured into the children. He was generous with money when he could be. And more importantly, he was generous with his time to the kids. But under the surface, stress was taking over. And this is over a lengthy period of time. Captain, I beg for your forgiveness.
Sure.
I don't
know what you're going to say. You said urine was yummy earlier, so I
didn't say it was yummy. I made a noise. I don't know if I can say this with a straight face.
All right. Say it with a...
But Herb
face.
began urinating on the boss's desk. This is...
Sometimes the boss deserves it, right?
This is not a one-time thing. A couple of books are out there about Herb, and according to at least two of them, this happened several times. So multiple times he pissed on this guy's desk.
Yeah, but I think at first they're like, we're not for sure who did it.
Right.
Also
that's exactly it. The one book said for months, for months, the boss found urine-soaked stationery on his desk.
He could, in fairness, the handbook never told him where the bathroom was.
And is that frowned upon? Once again, Herb was the prime suspect, but there's no proof. They didn't have proof.
Yeah, nobody saw him with his ding-a-ling being on the desk.
I guess this very strange, gross form of misconduct continued until a letter that was to be sent to the governor of Indiana was found soaked. And so, because he's the prime suspect, Herb was dismissed. He was fired from that job. So Julie returned to teaching part-time to support the family. Herb was working, though. He was still working. This is when he started working in sales positions. And these sales positions required some traveling, and he seemed to enjoy being on the road.
Yeah, because he could probably live out some of his fantasies in secret.
Eventually, he returned to Indianapolis full-time, claiming he missed his family. His father found him a sales clerk position at a thrift store.
But also, it's a very bad sign that you can't get your own jobs. It's fine when you're in middle school or high school and your father knows a guy that owns the local candy shop, and you know what I mean? But it's like, at some point, it's like you're married, you have kids, and you can't just go find your own way.
Well, in fairness, if they contact his previous employer, it's said that he was pissing on the desk.
Yeah, but could you imagine the guy that got passed over?
Right.
And they go, hey, now that Herbert's gone, we're going to give you the job. And it's like, yeah, thanks a lot. And then he gets to go back home to his wife and go, yeah, guess what? Herbert, the guy pissing on the boss's desk every day, they finally fired him. I got a promotion. We're eating steaks for dinner.
Well, his job at the thrift store, this kind of opened his eyes to some stuff. So he became convinced that the thrift store business had enormous potential.
Yeah.
So you have inventory that can be acquired very cheaply and then sold at large profit margins. And there's a charity angle to it that one could exploit in a number of different ways for financial advantages. Herb's father dies in 1986. And afterward, he asked his widowed mother for a loan. She gave him, the reports are $4,000.
Yeah.
And it said that he used this money and her contacts to connect with local charities, with the idea that he and Julie would open up their own thrift store. And this became known as the Save-A-Lot thrift store. The reports here, Captain, customers were surprised by how clean and organized this store was in comparison to the other thrift shops. The store was successful almost immediately. In its first year, it turned a profit of $50,000.
Well, Save a Lot is a good name for a thrift shop. It's better than he wanted to call it Piss a Lot, but they didn't think that would be good branding.
Yeah, so that profit of $50,000, that first year I think was 1988, would be equivalent to a $140,000 profit in the first year today. Keep in mind, a lot of businesses, in fact, the overwhelming majority of businesses don't turn a profit until like year 5. So this is a huge success.
Right. A lot of their products that they're selling are donated.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You have this huge markup, and in some cases, you're bringing in inventory at no cost to you other than the man hours that it takes to collect, clean, and stock them. Early in the second year, Herb and Julie opened a second location. By the third year, it looks like the staff pretty much handled all of the daily work by that point. That they were successful enough, they were bringing enough money, they could hire enough people and have a staff large enough to handle all of the daily work.
But I also find this interesting because I think part of it was, hey, let's have 2 stores because then we could double our profit. But also, the more locations and the more stuff he can do for work, the less people can locate him, if that makes any sense.
I'm not going to say that doesn't play into it. I think it absolutely does. I think that the major driving force here is his obsession with financial success and
money
perceived
and power. Yeah.
success. And I think we've seen this. You see this all the time where somebody's like, "Ooh, I opened up this one restaurant, this one bar, this one store. Look at the success I have. What are you going to do next year? I'm opening up 5 more locations." And then you start to have all kinds of problems because of that expansion.
Yeah,
and
we're going to start expanding the podcast. We're going to go with True Crime Garage, then True Crime Garage 2, and then True Crime Garage 3. It'll be a monopoly.
The thing here, though, is I think that what we will see eventually, and this is further down the road here, but these stores will start to fail. And I think a large part of that starts at the top and started with Herb. So in 1991, the Baumeisters moved into what is known as Fox Hollow Farm. So this is an elegant mansion of a home in Westfield. This is in Hamilton County, Indiana. So about 20-ish miles, maybe not quite 20 miles from Indianapolis. The property had 4 bedrooms, an indoor swimming pool, a riding stable, and more than 18 acres of land.
Yeah, when you see an overview of this property, you can see how large the house is, but you can also see how large the property is. I mean, this is winning at the American dream.
Absolutely. And just like you said, this has Herb traveling a lot for work, right? He's going to auctions and conducting long distance business meetings and dealings. He regularly traveled throughout the state of Indiana and portions of Ohio, mainly West Ohio. But he's driving up and down Interstate 70, visiting potential clients across multiple state lines. By day, he's smiling, shaking hands, and performed respectably. By night, he could do whatever he wanted. So alone with his fantasies, these fantasies intensified. And for Herb, on the highway, sex, control, violence, and death were all tangled together. So we need to back up here just for a bit, right? Because Herb and family moved to Fox Hollow Farm in 1991. But before that, roaming Indiana and Ohio was an unidentified offender known as the I-70 Strangler or the Interstate 70 Strangler. A serial killer believed to have murdered at least 11 young males and adult men in Indiana and Ohio between June of 1980 and October of 1991.
Some of these victims are pretty young. I would say that the killer of these men is not just, I would say that there was an element of pedophile within this killer.
The victims were often last seen around gay bars, theaters, or similar establishments in Indianapolis or hitchhiking. Their bodies were later found naked or partially clothed near Interstate 70, often dumped in rural streams, ditches, rivers, or culverts. The cause of death was generally strangulation. By the early 1990s, Herb appeared to have achieved success, right? He's got money. He's got his own businesses, a family, a large estate, but the success did not satisfy him. He pushed constantly for more. He bought excessive goods at auctions, which he then had to start filling his home and property with this overflow of inventory, with this overflow of shelving units that were not needed for the stores, mannequins, and a whole bunch of resale items.
When you said the stores were notably clean, but it seems like this mansion he's living at is a chaotic mess.
Yeah. His wife said that rooms became essentially storage areas. And what we do know by her report and many others, the master bedroom and the pool, the indoor, remember he's got an indoor pool. The pool area, this is all filled with merchandise. So the home became an extension of the business, right? It's almost a storage area for his businesses, but it also becomes an extension of his business obsessions.
Yeah.
He's trying to grow and grow and grow this business for parts like you said, for parts of him like you said, but also parts of his wife becomes unhappy with the situation, the home that she had dreamed of, and also probably the home that kept her quiet and kept her from paying so much attention to her weird ass husband, became buried under clutter. So she's unhappy. Herb's ambition became compulsive. He's looking for new store locations, even when the existing stores that he has now are starting to struggle. So Julie,
we also don't know how honest he's being with other individuals about the success or lack of success that the business is having.
Oh, absolutely.
The business is having.
I think you're spot on there, my friend. He is, we talked about overdressing for, wearing a suit to a role that probably everybody else wore khakis and a polo shirt. That's this guy, the facade, right? It's the appearance of such.
Yeah, but in fairness to Herbert, the pervert, you can get a nice suit, dress shirt, dress pants, and probably dress shoes at his shop. Save a lot for about $3.50.
Correct. But this was his whole adult life, well before the save a lot.
Right.
Now, okay, so the marriage is under strain. He's becoming increasingly stressed out and probably exhibiting erratic behaviors. So his wife needs an escape, and we know Herb's not going to say no. So summers at the lake with the children became a regular getaway for his family. So she took the children and spent long stretches of time away from the house and away from Herb. Now, Herb had the freedom that he wanted, and he enjoyed the road. And when he's on the road and he's at the bars, well, now he's got money. Oh, and he also has cocaine. And the money and the drugs gave him confidence and power.
The cocoa bean.
Within that scene. So he returns actively and gets very involved with Indianapolis gay nightlife. But this time when he returns to this, he is working under a new name, Brian Smart.
Sounds phony to me.
Sounds made up. That's because it probably is.
Right. But, 60% of the time it works all the time.
Mm-hmm.
What's your name? Brian Smart.
Well,
my name is Brian Dumas.
As time passed, Herb's public life began collapsing and his hoarding worsened. Fox Hollow Farm was filled with thrift store goods or goods that he wanted to eventually make their way to the thrift stores. Julie returned when she would come back from these stretches of being away, when she would return to the house, she found the house more chaotic each time. And so the marriage would continue to deteriorate. And then we have reports of missing and murdered gay men that are appearing in the news. And it's said that Herb was following these stories and these reports obsessively. The old Save-A-Lot business began losing momentum. Herb showed up at the stores only every once in a while. And when he did show up, he was there and he berated the staff, yell at everybody, throw a big fit, and leave was pretty much his MO. So his reputation as a successful and clever businessman is fading and fading fast. And his wife, Julie, came close to divorce. Then in late spring, this is before one of the summers where she would go away again to the lake, their son, he comes to the house and he's carrying a human skull. Mommy, look what I found. And she asks him where he got it. What is that? She recognizes it to be human and authentic. And the boy says, well, I found it out in the woods. And there's a bunch of more bones out there. So Julie confronts her husband, Herb, about the child's findings. Herb said that the skeleton had belonged to his father. Remember, he's a doctor, Dr. Baumeister. And he said his father supposedly kept it and had it for medical work, and that he inherited this among other things. And he supposedly kept it, Herb did. And then at some point when they were having children, he decided to bury it in the yard so that the children would not find it.
Plausible, but not likely.
Plausible, but not likely.
I mean, the guy had no problem with having mannequins surrounding his indoor pool.
And it sounds like Julie believed him, and they moved on from this finding. And he was probably ready to go back to work, and she was probably ready to go back to the lake.
Thank you so much for joining us here in the garage. Stick around for part 2 of this true crime story. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Until the next episode.
Be good, be kind, and don't litter.
Three o'clock. Kids are home. Your to-do list isn't done. New Kraft Mac and Cheese Power Mac was made for days like this. Kraft Mac and Cheese Power Mac packs the same irresistible creamy, cheesy flavor you love, now with 17 grams of protein and 6 grams of fiber. Fuels you up, keeps you going, because your day doesn't stop. Kraft Mac and Cheese Power Mac. Find it at your favorite retailer. The best thing ever keeps getting better.
Courage. I learned it from my adoptive mom.
Hold my hand.
You hold my hand. Learn about adopting a teen from foster care at adoptuskids.org. You can't imagine the reward. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.